Hey, it's Jim Cardona from Cardona Pinball. Haven't posted a review video in a while, so here's one about Barrels of Fun's Dune Pinball, which I'm really liking. Let me tell you a little. So this game, obviously one of the things that everybody talks about that's really innovative is the color changing from nighttime to daytime. So it has these lights you can see along the side, which slowly take the game from night to day, which is pretty cool. But one of the things that I really like about it is they built that into the rules. So in the rules of the game, there's certain things you can do at daytime and certain things you can do at nighttime. And if you don't get certain tasks done at that night, you have to wait for the next cycle. You have to go back into day and then wait for the next night to do that again. So, for example, another thing I like about it is the timers are set up on how much water and spice you have. So let me start a game, and let's turn the volume down a little bit. So as you can see on the display up in the corner, it tells you how much spice you have here. You have 0 so far, and how much water you have here, 30. So those numbers are going to affect the time you have to complete certain tasks. And you can collect more. Let's see, if I shoot a ball, maybe I can get some to show up. All right, so I played it for a little bit, and so I got some lights to show up. So you can see these little blue and orange lights that are on different lanes. Those are pieces of spice and pieces of water that I can collect. So if I shoot, like say if I shoot that center lane shot, I would get all of those. I would get 3 pieces of spice and 1 piece of water. So you want to collect those, because then that's going to add time. So you see I got 43 waters and 3 spice. So 3 spice isn't much at all, but I got 43 water. So if I start one of the modes, I believe the water is the daytime and the spice is the nighttime. Maybe I got that reversed. I can't remember. But say I start a mode that's in daytime, it's going to slowly bleed down that water. So that how much water I have is basically my timer. And when I run out of water, then boom, if I didn't make the shots in that time, then I'm done. So you want to constantly collect these things. And then at nighttime, when you do one of the nighttime modes, it's going to be using up your spice. So I think that's a really cool concept. Obviously, the worm is cool as hell. The worm comes up, and there's a couple different ways that it does. And I really like the fact that the ball, when you put it on that worm, it hits that worm magnet. It doesn't just like pop down real fast. It like moves down real slow and deliberately, which is pretty neat. And all these different ball paths it has that are hidden behind the mountains is another thing I really like. Now, one of the things that people have definitely talked about is how the game feels a little floaty. If you look at the back leg leveler, you can see it's all the way down, and that's the way they designed it, such that you would put all the leg levelers completely down, and then it would be at the proper level, so there wouldn't really be any adjustment, assuming your floor is level. But I don't know if the floor is level in this place. It's set up, and it definitely doesn't feel like fast and crisp the same way a Stern game does, but nothing wrong with that, right? It just has a different feel to it. One of the things that I a little bit was I said, okay, well let me because in the service menu you can turn the so you go to settings and you can go to coil and you can set all of these strengths, and other people have tried that as well, because one of the things they say is like, okay, this Barrel of Fun's game, and maybe this applies to Labyrinth as well, which is right there. But it just doesn't feel this. So people have gotten especially competitive people, have gotten so accustomed to playing Stern games that they expect all pinball to feel the same, and it doesn't. So then they said, okay, well, we're going to turn our flipper power up, and we're going to turn our slingshot power up, on these Barrel of Fun games so that they feel more crisp and feel more like what we're accustomed to. But then what I've heard, I haven't experienced this yet myself, but what I've heard is that that these flipper coils on these Barrel of Fun games, if you turn the coil power up too high, they tend to overheat. And when they overheat, when they get hotter, is that when the flipper coils get hot, what ends up happening is they start to feel a little bit laggy. I don't think there's any risk of them burning up or anything like that, but they just don't perform the same because a hotter coil, the current characteristics, because it changes the resistance, right? So it's the current characteristics of the coil is different, so they don't feel the same. So then you start to get this thing where if you're playing a really long game and you have your coil power turned up all the way, then the flipper starts to feel a little different the longer the game goes on. So I don't know what the solution is to that. Probably just leave the coil powers alone, right? Leave them where they're supposed to be. And but I know some people talk about putting fans, but for me it's not a problem, right? Because I don't have super long games. Not that great of a player, so I've never seen it myself. I've only heard that. I don't know if that's the same case. I would assume that would be the same case with the Labyrinth as well. But overall, just my initial impressions. I really like the game. It does feel different, but I think different's good. Why should all of the games feel the same? I really like. I think there's been some real attention to did the layout such that you don't really get any balls that just go straight down the middle, which I think is a great thing. And you have all these different paths, and then the ball, because it's kinetic energy of the ball, and the ball can do random things. But I don't tend to find that the ball just falls straight down the middle with like some of the Stern games that I felt like were like, I don't know why they did certain things certain ways. But this one seems really deliberate. There's lots of different shots, lots of cool stuff. You got it. Ball lock over here. You got the pop bumper that's hidden behind here when there's a path behind it. You got the hole. You got the kick out and a hole behind it. And then multiple uses of things. So like you have the shot that can go to where the worm is, but you have all those targets around that, so you can hit those targets. Or you can go straight through, and if you go straight through, there's a gap there. So you can, if you hit it hard enough, you can go across and go right into the harvest. Or if not, it drops into the lane. Or the worm can come up, and there's a couple. It's not only one single thing that worm does. It does a few different things. So just that one shot has a lot of different possibilities, which is neat. And I like the way they've done things where certain shots. So like, this shot can go two different ways back there. And then the same thing that they've kind of did with the worm where there's multiple things going on. They've done that with this ball lock here where it can bounce around in there. There's a spinner in there. You see those two pins can come up, so that can be a ball lock, but it's also a path. This shot here, it has a ramp that can go up or down. So even though it looks... there's a lot more. What I want to say is there's a lot more there than what it looks like. There's a lot of stuff that kind of surprises you in this game, and I really like it. As far as the theme, that's where you're going to get anything. I mean, I love the theme. I read all 6 Herbert books originally when I was a kid. I haven't read his son's books, but I read all the 6 that he wrote, the originals. I watched all the. I remember going to the premiere, the original back in the 80s. So I really love the theme. But then to translate it into pinball, I think it's hard to translate it into a movie, to be honest with you. It's such an epic adventure. To translate it into pinball, I think it's a big ask. The music that they use from the movies is a lot of it's kind of slow and melodic, which goes with the theme. But in pinball, we're used to stuff that's just like pulse pounding and exciting sometimes. And so again, it's just a different feel. It's more slow and it's more of a build up. But when it does get exciting, I think this game is pretty good. So I like it. I like it a lot overall, and just like that's my initial thoughts and my opinion of it.